Lex, and this is a basic history of coins and the magic that is behind them. Now, if you know anything about how money is traded over the last 2,000 years, you would know that about 2,000 years ago, a pound of salt was equivalent to a pound of gold. And the reason why is because of the law of supply and demand. Now, gold is one of the world's oldest currencies, but before gold was a currency, like silver or cash is today, or crypto or stocks or any other forms of assets or equities and securities, before they had gold, the other thing that they used in order to trade were not just metals, it was food, but one of the things that they had were very special spherical rocks, and based off of the number of holes inside of it was kind of like how much was left on an ATM card, but it was with very specific stones. So diamonds are another one based off of the clarity. And the reason I like talking about coins and magic is because if you look at mints such as the US government, the British mint, which is the Royal Mint in London, I believe it is, the one that's in Canada, the one that is in South Africa, or the one in Austria, or even the one in Australia, all of them make coins about this size, which is 1 ounce, and they all make them in gold and silver, the world's oldest currency, which is why we have depositories of this. And when war breaks out, like it did in the Ukraine, Russia had a lot of gold put away because gold is the world's oldest form of currency. And the reason why I'm not a financial advisor, but the reason it's important to invest in these kind of things is because there's actually more magic behind coins than a lot of people know, because coins are the world's oldest currency. So if you have a coin collection, you essentially have a bank, and one of the first banks that ever existed. I simply look at it as an iron bank, because when we first had banks, like if you look at Game of Thrones, they were iron banks because people had coins that they would exchange. Over the years, as gold became more available because of the gold rush in 1849 in California, it became really, really popular. And then they started to use it on much more common things for everyday coins in the US Mint, such as the coins that you'll find that were made around, I believe, 90% gold back then, which is a high amount because today's gold by the US Mint that are eagles are made of 22 karat gold, where the buffaloes that are also 1 ounce are made of 24 karat gold, and they're not quite the same, but they have different premiums on them and different values because of what their melt value is. What a lot of people don't know is if you simply take a coin like this, which is secondary because it's not made by a US Mint, so that means this one just has a buffalo on it, and no matter what anyone says, a buffalo is not made by the US Mint in silver. They only make them in gold. They make the eagles in gold and silver, but they only make the buffaloes in gold. They do not make the silver ones, the 1 ounces, at all by the US Mint. They're simply at melt value. They just happen to be very popular because they're buffaloes. So it's like having a pre-American type of silver like Native Americans because of a buffalo. And that was a very common thing for Native Americans, which I'm 1/16 Cherokee. That's another story, or so I've been told by one member of my family. And reason why you collect these things is because if you look at gold, when I was about 4 years old, which I think was around 93, the price is around $400 an ounce. It might have been 2004, I can't remember exactly. But around 20 years, it's gone up 400 to 500%. That means that if you invested 20 coins that were at $400, at $10,000 total, because you had 20 of them, which is simply this whole entire thing, you would now have $80,000 worth of gold, because there would be 20 coins, each one around $2,000 plus the premium. So you'd have a little tube right here that was worth between $10,000 and $20,000 when computers were coming out and money was starting to be digitized. And now it's worth 4 to 5 times that, and it holds its value. So the benefit of gold is that it's always going to be around. And the best part is if the value of the dollar keeps deflating, which it did in 1940s Germany's, and then the paper was useless, so people were using it as fire, tinder and kindling to light fires because they had to keep their houses warm, and it wasn't worth anything, and it was probably going to cost them money to make money. So as the value of the dollar goes down, this doesn't go down as long as of course, you can keep the quality of it high, but the spot value is always going to keep going up because as time goes on, we're going to be using gold and silver more and more in ways that we never did before. Now, I have a personal theory and a prediction, which I had on gold when I was a kid, but I also had this prediction that gold and silver will rise as time goes on because half the silver has been lost at the bottom of the ocean through wars, merchant ships, and a million other things over 2,000 years. Now, it's very expensive to mine. The other benefit is that silver itself is used in green energy. So if you want to invest in green energy, invest in silver because it's also in Tesla batteries. So they make them in electric cars in China and other countries. Just like they used copper in 1943 and they replaced coins, the US government had a mandate that it ended up having to be made of steel that year. If you find one of the few, I think 200 that were minted that year that say 1943 and they're made of steel, they're worth a fortune. Save them and find them. If you find one say 1943 and they're not made of steel, have it looked at by a coin dealer, you might have just found a fortune. There's your $100,000 tip of the day. And the other thing that's amazing about it is that the higher the grade is, the more valuable it is to a collector. Because when you go with gold, you're not just talking about money. You're talking about people that have time to collect these and they want to have an interest in these because of the history behind them, like things that belong to George Washington, continental coins, or the fact that there's art pieces on every single coin because engravers are used by the US Mint and mints that are secondary in order to have them made, and just like if you were to stencil something out. Now, the one thing that a lot of people won't tell you is the difference between a mint and which is considered primary, which is made by one of the countries I mentioned before, the United States Mint, the Canadian Mint, the Royal Mint of the UK, the Austrian Mint, the Australian Mint, the South African Mint. So those are the 6 main ones. There are a few others, of course, but those are the ones that are actual government mints, so they're supposed to be mandated more. But they don't sell for the same value as, sorry, they're not worth the exact same value, and they don't always sell the same value as the secondary ones like these do, or the Buffaloes, or ones that are made by other companies like Atmex. And the reason for that is because it's been refined. So it's not the original, but you're buying the exact same thing. That's like going to Tiffany's, buying a 5-carat diamond earring set that's $10,000, let's say, for Tiffany's, and then finding the exact same one at Cartier right down the street, and it's the exact same thing. The only difference is that the box is different. So it's a little prettier on the outside, but the compound of the diamond, the compound of the metal that's used inside of the earring is the exact same as if you were going to go to Cartier or if you were going to go down to Tiffany's. The only difference is how much you consider the brand to be more important as a brand. Like a Dassault, which is a $1,000 watch, versus a Rolex, or a Petit Philippe, which is often more expensive than even many Rolexes. So depending on how much you consider the value of the brand, you can have a higher premium with coins, and that is a bargaining ability that you have. Now, there are a lot of people in other countries and other different businesses with coins, especially I found, that will actually try to buy it below spot price. I don't care what anyone says, everybody pays a spot price, because if you look at the most successful dealers, they will all pay at least $1 over whatever the spot price is, because they have a system that works. So anybody that is not willing to give you money above the spot price, so a premium on top of that, because there's cost to ship it, there's cost to mint it, and the spot price is the melt value. So if a coin is 90%, like they were done with mercury dimes or quarters up until, I believe, from 1916 to 1946, give or take a few years, they were made of 90% silver. So their actual melt value, even though they're historically significant, and occasionally they are more valuable for numismatic purposes, which is a rare collectible thing for coin people, they are actually always bought by just about every dealer at the exact same price. So now some places will buy Eagles for a little more. Other places I've actually seen will only give you the meld value plus a basic number, or they'll even go below the meld value. So always sell your stuff to coin shops. Don't sell it to pawn shops. You will not get your better value. And if you go to a couple of coin shops, you'll find the one, because you're going to find the guys that want to have you as a repeated customer for 30 years. Because if you're buying things like that from them, like I have people buy cards from me, I have people buy coins from me, and I want them to come back over and over again, because what makes a business successful, especially when it comes to coins or magic, which you can do is having repeated customers, because you want them to start by trusting you. And when they trust you with $28 item, eventually they'll trust you after you've proven that you're trustworthy, that they can do with an $80 item, then a $100 item, then a $2,000 item, which if this was a piece of gold, they could give me over $2,000 for this, and they wouldn't worry about it being counterfeit, because they would trust me, and I would show them, like, hey, I go through this, I buy them from a certified guy, or I certify them myself. Here's a magnet that I'm going to show, because gold is not magnetic. So I'd show them that. I wouldn't ask to test unless it was a special request and they were a repeat dealer, or sorry, a repeat buyer, because I want to make sure that I continue that relationship. And it's important that you do those little things with those customers, because that goes a long way, because everybody has their little preferences when it comes to collecting things. And the reason that gold and silver are so useful in order to have, especially gold itself, is addition to the fact that it's a hedge against inflation. So it stays and goes up in value where the dollar doesn't. And some people, according to APMEX, have as much as 30% in their portfolio of gold. Now, listen to your own financial advisor. I'm not one. Just talk to your owner, take a few bets and have some fun, because it's all about stacking all the coins together and having fun with them. Because that's what you want to do. You want to have it. Now, the reason I like coins so much is because you can get a small profit margin on them, and you just wait on them to flip them to another person that's a collector, and you meet people in other areas and other professions. I work with people that are in real estate, which is fantastic, because they have a little more extra finance from owning and managing properties, where they can afford to collect coins a little more often. And I like working with them in that area, because we can share knowledge on different things, whether it's the business of real estate or the business of coins, and we can do this over and over again and help each other in different areas. I even have a real estate guy that actually helps me count my coins, because there's so many of them, and he helps me inventory it, because he runs his own business as well. So it's a win-win for both of us, and he loves coins. So working with him has just been fantastic, and because he's another vet, we both get our tax benefits from doing that, but we also have our bonds, and we get to make laughs and jokes about memories that we share, but we get to share the passion of coins. And that's why coins are called stacking. Just like if you were to get a thing of cards because you're a magician, you would have a box full of them, and we all have them. Just like it would be a box full of cards, a box full of packet tricks, a box full of magic coins. So the other benefit of the coins is that if you buy above a certain amount in certain states, it's actually tax-free. And a lot of companies, especially mine, will actually ship you coins that, and we won't charge you any shipping, and we'll fully insure it for you and take care of all of it, because you purchased a minimum amount. And because of that, we want to go that extra mile for you. And by doing that, we're hoping that you'll come back next time, because you'll look at other companies and go, hey, those guys gave me free shipping last time. I should go with them again, because I got great service. They told me when it was going to be shipped out. I got a tracking number, and it was insured. And insuring an item, especially if you're going to buy, because I can sell, I believe my license allows me to sell up to $500,000 in gold. So I would have to, it would take me a few weeks, but if a person sends me the money for it, and I have to send them $500,000 in gold, that $500,000, I have to make sure it is insured, and it's shipped to the address, has to be signed for, and I'm going to not just take, like most things would just be tracked. But when they're high amounts above a certain value, that has to be signed for. We got to make sure it's done. And just to go that extra mile, I'm going to call them like, hey, what do you think about the product? Did you like it? Was it packed right? And I'm going to double check on that, because, and I would do that for my low value items as well, not just my high value items. And so if this was filled with coins, this would literally be $80,000. Sorry, 20 coins at 2,000 would be, sorry, $40,000, not 80, my bad earlier. This would be 20 coins plus this. So 40 coins together, this would be $80,000. I don't know about you, but $80,000, this is a lot more of a prideful thing to look at and go, wow, I did that, versus $80,000 in cash, which would stack because you would have to want to spend it. And the reason gold and silver is so good is because it's very, very easy to liquefy, and there's less paperwork involved because the rules involving companies and taxes and certain amounts. Sometimes people buy them above a certain amount or below a certain amount, and then the tax rules are different. Check with your accountant on that. We'll go over that another time. So that's the other benefit of coins, is that it's a cash business. So I wouldn't be surprised if some dealers in this world have a bunch of money stashed away like Scrooge McDuck. I'm sure the director of the U.S. Mint does too. But speaking of the director, he's a big fan of magic, and so it's fantastic having someone like him to be a big fan of magic for us, because we get to share, like, hey, we came up with this cool idea, but hey, we're gonna have to share this with you how we did it, because for security reasons, obviously, you want to make sure that you know about anything that we may have done differently. Now, I like coins. I think they're amazing. You can also buy them in platinum from certain places. And platinum is actually used in medical equipment. And the benefit of platinum versus gold and silver is the supply of platinum in this world is much, much lower than the quantity of gold and silver is, by far. There's more silver in this world than there is gold. But there's more platinum in this world than there is... Sorry, there's less platinum than there is gold. So platinum is used in medical equipment, industrialized. Now, my theory when it comes to these metals and why they'll be extremely valuable around now is because of how much money John D. Rockefeller made through steel and industrializing it for the first time. And now that I see that gold is being industrialized in computers, which you can't melt it down, and if the 4-year-olds have iPhones, that's a lot of gold that's going to add up over time with all the phones or other items that use gold and electronics. Silver for green energy, because that's going to be important for global warming. People that want to invest in different things and they want to diversify their portfolios. So silver is going to be a natural component that's required. And the last one is platinum. And platinum is used in medical equipment. We're always going to have a need for that. So if there's only so much of that and it's less than there is silver and way less than gold, then the value can only rise with time, because as supply goes down, the price goes up. So hanging on to it for a long time might be a good idea, even though it's $30 a gram now. Could go up to a lot higher. I mean, there's a lot more silver than there is platinum, but the prices are pretty darn close. I mean, the spot prices are an $8 difference, but that's not really, I mean, it's a big difference percentage-wise, but between $23 and $32 to $35, that's still an under $50 item. So imagine if that ever goes up to $200, just like that, I mean, or even if it goes up to $90, that would triple on a lot of these items over time. As they get more industrialized, as we use them more, as people collect them more, as more people buy them to hedge against inflation, there's going to be less around, because not everyone's going to want to sell them. They're going to want to hang on to them, because if U.S. currency becomes useless or the rest of the world decides not to keep onto it, they decide to move over to crypto or whatever reason, the countries that are not technologically advanced or otherwise places that we can go are always going to accept gold and silver. And one of the reasons why they accept it is because it's not just the world's oldest form of currency, it's also used by jewelers. So because of the fact that it's used by jewelers and melted down to make rings, to make things with diamonds, earrings, bracelets, all that stuff, that supply, it gets industrialized as well. So rhodium is now, I believe, was like $5,000 or $8,000 a gram. It was insane, or maybe an ounce, but it was a lot higher than all the others. Rhodium was the highest, but a lot of people just don't invest in it. It's usually just used in jewelry. Now, I think it's important to diversify in metals. I like it because they're very light. You can move them around. And many years ago, fun fact about history, when the cartel out of South America decided to move cash for their legitimate business operations, the weight of cash is very, very heavy for $1 million. It's actually lighter to transport $1 million in gold, or $40 million in a Van Gogh painting. So if you want to move something a little lighter, I mean, imagine moving $40 million in cash. You could do that through a bank, sure. But you have plenty of people that don't want to have all their money in the bank. They don't trust the bank because they can only insure up to $250,000. So they would need 4 accounts for $1 million. So heck, if you can insure, I mean, I can insure $500,000 selling it, but they can't insure $250K in cash without having more than one account. Well, maybe you could buy $500,000 worth of gold off me and stash it somewhere else. I don't need to know where. What you do with it's your business. Once I got my money and you got your gold, heck, we're both happy. We both got something great, and that's more than a bank's going to give you, and that's actually going to go up in value, where if you put in one of their savings accounts, you're not going to make a damn thing. So you'll make more money from me investing in gold probably than you would if you were to keep in a savings account. And it's a fun thing to invest in because you get to look at it, you get to stack it up over time, and most importantly, keep it in a very, very safe place. I would not keep it in your home. I mean, maybe a few pieces, but keep it in a safe place that nobody knows about except for you and the people that are the most important, that are close to you. So I hope this has been very valuable on the idea of gold and silver. I'm going to go more into it another time, but gold and silver and coins as a whole are great because you can constantly meet people, and every time you meet a new client for gold and silver coins, they might want to buy something again from you, and getting their contact information from a basic business standpoint, their name, phone number, and email, that has a basic business value of $15 because you're going to have that master list that you're going to call one day like, hey, I got all these items. All right, does any of these interest you? Or a couple of days ago or last time I spoke to you, you told me you were interested in these items. I came across a few of them and I got them in my collection. Would you like to purchase them? And having that, doing that type of thing for your client is where you make those real profits because they don't just want to buy an item over and over again. A lot of people that buy these items were collectors. So for us, it's about finding a particular type of item. So once you get to know what the client really likes, whether it's 90% dimes, whether it's specifically silver coins or gold coins, what they like best is what you want to be able to get for them repeatedly, because repeated business is good business, and that's the type of business that lasts 30 years. And you do not want to shaft them on your profits. Now, people go, oh, you should have higher profit margins. But one of the things I learned from Mark Cuban and Chris Voss, the former head of the FBI's International Hostage Negotiation Team that wrote the book Never Split the Difference, fantastic read, check it out, is Mark Cuban once said, the guy that doesn't screw you on the first deal, that's the type of relationship that pays dividends for decades. And at the end of the day, I could screw a guy on a deal and make 50 extra bucks. Or I could think of it long term and know that, hey, I want this guy to buy from me from 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 50 years. I want this guy to be a constant customer. I want this guy to be my friend. I want this guy to be one of my favorite clients. $50 is not worth that. I would rather go that extra mile for him and have him coming back over and over again, because then I'm going to be his chosen dealer and the person that he wants to buy from, because it's not always about price. It's about giving the best experience to your customer. That's what worked for Bezos, and that's why people buy watches in person and they don't always buy them online. It's that experience of buying it. Just like if you're to buy a new car, you don't want to buy that online. You want to test drive it. You want to feel it, because when you're spending $10,000, $20,000, you want to feel that in your hands. You want to, all right, this is legit. Like, wow, I get to really feel this. And you want to do that before forking over your money. So let me know if you're interested in buying any gold, or you want to learn more about coins, want to learn coin magic. I'm happy to teach it. My name is Lex. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, and I hope you enjoyed this lesson on coins. Have a good night.